that's the problem, or like the mistake most people do make. It's they never take profit, or if they take profit into another coin. They're like, oh, I'm going to buy this new coin, and then the next coin goes down 90%. So over the time of the bull market, just like think about it as a bank account you're just building up, because in the bear market you would just wait, and at some point you just start buying again. It doesn't matter if you buy the exact bottom.
Ole, welcome to the show.
Hi man, nice to be on.
How's it going today?
Oh, pretty good so far. Went to the gym, I'm pumped up,
Yeah.
Preparing.
That's always good to start the day. But I mean, by you, it's in afternoon. By me, it's morning. So I am starting the day with some coffee. But it's okay. This is the way I get myself pumped up.
Yeah.
So why don't you start a little bit telling us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background?
Yeah. So I'm a trader and a podcast host as well. So I also do content, but I'm an ex-music producer and artist. So I have a past in the creative industry, then kind of went into crypto full on from like 2017 and 18. I was still producing some music, but since 2020, I completely switched careers. But I'm slowly coming back into music just for fun now, but I really like left it behind in a professional way. And really went deep into the crypto Web3 rabbit hole. And worked on some projects as well, but like I was never employed by anyone or anything. So like I like to work in a very free way. So right now building my personal business. I'm still getting deeper into the crypto sphere and the NFT markets. And I'm excited to see what's going to be next.
Yeah. So as a music producer, I've had actually a couple different podcast guests who used to be in the music business and now like resonate with this space. But what's interesting about you is that it seems that you're more on the trading side rather than the NFT side that a lot of the music people go into. Or are you into both? Or
I mean, I like both, but I really went into trading in 2017. So there weren't many NFTs around. I actually bought my first NFT in 2018, beginning of 2018. I bought an Ethermon, which was like a complete Ponzi NFT. So, but yeah, you're kind of right. So I really went deep into trading, and I'm just super interested in market dynamics. So I would say I learned about like, I have a decent foundation in technical analysis and all this stuff. And for me in the beginning, it was really hard to apply it to NFT markets because they function quite differently. Like just beginning with a simple fact that they don't have a chart, at least back then, 2 years ago, there weren't any possibilities to have a chart. So I kind of, tried to trade it as well. And I did pretty well trading NFTs, but I never felt confident to really go into it with size, especially with like higher price NFTs. And I think like the main issue for me always was I like to have liquidity. So when I buy a coin and I know I can get out of my position easily again, I can have a stop loss, all these things you couldn't apply to trading NFTs, right? So you have to completely change your mindset in the way you trade. So that was kind of a challenge. And I would say I even maybe regret a little bit that I never like went into NFTs with a lot of capital, because the capital that I put into NFTs actually turned into something quite decent. I mean, maybe I got lucky at some point, but I think I could have even played it way better. And for the next cycle, if anything new is popping up, I think it's always smart to like get some skin in the game as soon as possible, and to really be open-minded about your like trading mindset in general. So maybe you have to find new rules or new techniques if a new asset is entering the market.
I like that you said the next cycle, right? So, I mean, right now we're in a bear market. There should be a next cycle, right? We don't know when it's going to be. Do you think that next cycle is going to be NFTs, or you think could be a possibility, could be something else?
I think NFTs, like they're not going away, but they have like the extreme hype cycle. And usually what happens if something has like a huge hype cycle, usually the the bear cycle also tends to be a little bit longer, and a new narrative gets started in another sector of the market. So maybe I could see a world where like another narrative is taking off before NFTs take off. So maybe it's something around DeFi again. Maybe it's something completely new, but maybe it's also a new narrative that's connected to NFTs. So
yeah,
but I don't think that like just NFTs just won't start mooning again like old projects just because the new cycle starts. I don't think it's going to happen. So it has to be some fundamental shift or some new narrative that's introduced into the markets.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I can resonate with everything you said, because when I bought my first NFTs, it was like apes of space, and I'm like, oh, this Bored Apes are going up, and these apes are probably going to go up again. Stuff goes to zero. But that's the way you learn, right? If you don't try it, you're never gonna know. So the hard part though for me is, it's how do you know that it is the next cycle, right? Like you said, start when it's early. But when I saw NFTs, I saw the Bored Apes going up in price, but I'm like, this is nothing. It's gonna be over, you know. So how do you know as a trader, like, okay, maybe this is it, or this is just another one of those hype cycles that's not gonna go anywhere? Or do you not know?
It's tough. So I think as an investor or as a trader in general, you try to build up like as many variables in your brain as possible so you can make a good decision based on that. So you'll never be 100% sure, right? That's why you have risk management, because you're never going to be sure. If everyone is sure about one thing, you can just be sure that it won't go anywhere further. The like asymmetrical upside, it always starts when most people doubt it the most. So it's I think it's a mixture of experience and having the right people around you, and also watching people that have been consistently right before, because there are some people that are really good with that. And if you learn to read them a little bit, it's maybe you can track some wallets and you see, okay, maybe if it's a new blockchain, you can see, oh, people actually use it. There are a lot of developers, there are a lot of job offerings in this space. So it's a mixture of like a lot of different variables you have to look at. But I think actually the thing you just talked about, like the sentiment of, oh, it's not going to go anywhere, like the way you felt when you watched the Bored Apes go up, and they go up more and they go up even more. I think once you have this feeling, just see it as an indicator in yourself, because you're kind of resenting it, right? They're saying, okay, this won't be it. If you feel this emotion, it's always a good sign to just dig a little deeper. Because every time when I really doubted something and I was like, oh, this is so stupid, this won't go anywhere, most of the times those projects really go far because they challenge your beliefs about the space. So I think that's actually a good indicator to look out for. Sometimes it's just a scam and it's just bad, and you're right. But on the other hand, if you feel this emotion, or if you see other people like broadcasting this emotion, look closer.
I like that. I mean, now that you said it, it definitely, every time I've lost money, it's been because I'm like, this is it. There's no way this is going to fail. And it just
100%,
goes down.
Yeah.
So maybe it's trusting that opposite instinct of, okay, I'm not so sure about this. Let me do some more digging. Maybe, and then it's worked out. But it's so hard to invest in those moments because you have your doubts, right? Like it's very easy to say it now after the fact, but when you're in that moment, when you're doubting a project or doubting yourself, to drop money on it, it's so much harder than just, than talking about it.
Yeah. It's you really have to learn it.
Yeah.
It's always easy to buy when things just go up a lot, or it's like basic human psychology. It's really hard to be the one being early, and also then selling when everyone else is telling you, this thing is going to change everything and it's going to be the biggest thing ever. But most of the times you're in crypto, you have one hype cycle and then it just kind of dies off. Sometimes you have a second cycle or like adoption cycles, but I think we still, especially with NFTs, and I think most of the like top projects, they probably won't see any of them their highs anymore in the next years. It's very, very hard.
Yeah. But this space, we don't know what's going to happen, right? So
exactly. So on the other hand, I don't know shit, and I know that. So that's the only fact I'm sure about.
So as a trader, is there like, I'm just trying to learn, right, and trying to be smarter about next time, because a lot of my projects, whether it's in some coins or in some NFTs, it went up, but I didn't sell at the top. I thought it was just going to keep going up, right? Let's say 3x, 4, 5x. I probably, and now I'm looking at, I'm like, I should have exited at some point. But is that a personal, does a person individually have to set kind of like, oh, if I 3x my money, I'm going to exit? Or is there any advice you can give me for kind of like thinking about that, like when to pull your profits?
I think it's always good to have a plan before you enter, because once the money comes in, you will just question everything about it. And you're like, oh no, it's going to go up more and more and more. And then once it starts going down, you're like, oh no, it's going to go back up. And then it goes down more. And then you tend to just sell at the bottom at the worst point. So I think I think there's some bad advice around this, because most people just like, oh no, never sell, just buy assets and hold them. But in crypto, it's kind of different, because you're not talking about, most of the time, you're not talking about like cash flow producing equity. Not a real business most of the time yet, because it's still a speculation on future adoption of technology, not about the actual technology a lot of the time. So I think besides maybe Ethereum or Bitcoin, I wouldn't hold anything for a longer time. And even with those, if you're up a lot, just take some profit. And if a fixed rule helps you, like if it's up 2x, just take out 30%, 50%, whatever, just at least cover your bases. Because if you cover your bases and you took out enough, so you only have your profit save, it's also way easier mentally, because there's nothing worse than round tripping a position. Yeah. If you just bought something and it went up 10x and it just comes down, and then you're in a loss, you just feel like an idiot, because you are an idiot.
That's how I was with Dogecoin. It went up, up, up. I'm like, oh, this is gonna keep going up. No, all right, back to where we started. But
I think it's really about like partial profit taking. So most people have the mindset of, oh, I want to be like all in or all out. And I think that's like an issue. So just in a bull market, or not only in a bull market, if a position really makes you some money, just take profit and take this profit, take it out in stablecoins and put it on your ledger. Don't use the money like to reinvest into something else, because that's the problem, or like the mistake most people make. It's they never take profit, or if they take profit into another coin. They're like, oh, I'm going to buy this new coin, and then the next coin goes down 90%. So over the time of the bull market, just like think about it as a bank account you're just building up, because in the bear market you would just wait, and at some point you just start buying again. It doesn't matter if you buy the exact bottom. Same thing, you don't have to sell the exact top. So
I like that. I mean, it also sounds like my experience with betting on sports. Every time I've won, I've ended up giving them back to the betting centers.
It's I mean, that's the thing. It's addictive. Yeah, and that's also something that's not talked about too often. You're like kind of chasing this dopamine high. If you experience buying something and it goes up 10x, it feels amazing, and you're like, I'm a genius, and I can do it again. But that's like a huge trap in general. So yeah, just be aware of that. And also your brain chemistry during a bull market, it kind of adopts to expecting a dopamine reward when you buy something, because you think it's going to go up. But once the market changes, the response your brain has trained is wrong. And it's going to just give you more pain. And then you have like this weird connection in your brain once the bottom is in, that, oh, once I buy, I lose my money, so I don't buy anymore. So once the opportunity comes where you should buy, you kind of like trained yourself like a Pavlovian dog to not buy anymore, because you're just like, oh fuck, this it's gonna hurt. So that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, a lot more psychology, I guess, than anything else with this.
It's all psychology. Yeah.
Interesting. So I found out about you through a post. I did it went viral, I would say. I mean, people were talking
I
about
think
it.
it went really viral. Like I
Do you
think
want to tell us
600.
what happened, what the post was, and kind of what it was about?
Yeah, I can give a short overview. So basically, it was just about me losing my money on FTX. So I had way too much cash on FTX, which obviously was kind of stupid. And for those who somehow missed all the news, FTX was one of the biggest crypto exchanges, and they are insolvent now. So they just fucked up big time. They did weird stuff with customer money and basically scammed a lot of people. It was huge fraud. And yeah, so I lost my money on that, which obviously was really painful. It was the biggest loss for me, like by huge multiple. And I always have quite a good, yeah, I mean, thank you. But in the end, for me, it happened and you can't change it. And you really have to make a decision. Like, am I going to be the victim? I am a victim, obviously, but it's a huge difference if you like fall down, if you like fall into this victim mindset and you're like, oh my God, the world is so bad. And it's obviously it's a shit thing to happen.
And I think a lot of people resonated with your post. Sorry didn't mean to cut you off, because one, it was like, oh, you started off like, I just lost my money on FTX, and people, this was going on, what happened? But I think that stuck people and drew them to you and to your content is because you seem very positive. You're like, I'm not gonna be a Pavlovian dog to let this define me. I'm going to go positive. I'm gonna go smarter and just keep on doing what I believe in.
Yeah. Also, I get so many messages from people like being in the same situation, and I think people always want to read your story to kind of see themselves in your story. So I really do believe in sharing about fuck ups and your mistakes and what you learn from them, because in the end, that's what helps people. And you can do all the posts, oh my God, I made so much money and I'm so successful, but people resent that shit. Like, honestly, most people reading that are like, oh, fuck you. I don't, good for you. Good for you. But if something's really bad, those are the times where we connect with each other. And I think that's something really interesting. And like, if you want to be a bit cheesy about like the human experience in general, like in like times of adversity, you really connect with people because people do care about this shit. And that was a really nice experience to me. And actually a lot of new relationships for me got started with this now. And I found someone, several people I'm going to meet with them. And I think with one or two of them, I have some like business things coming up now. And I'm like, okay, maybe I would have never met them without FTX stealing my money, without me posting about it. And that's kind of interesting, right? So like, there's this old meme, if life gives you some lemons, like decide wisely what you're going to do with them. If you like want to squeeze them into your eyes, and cry, or if you do like some cringy shit post on LinkedIn, I would recommend doing a cringy shit post. It works better.
I think though, putting yourself out there, I always tell people, either who are looking for a job or looking to take that next step, like, it's hard, I know, but put yourself out there. And like, if you're not getting traction, it's probably because you're not, like, people want you to be open up with them, right? Like you said, nobody just wants to see you succeeding and doing everything, because most of the time it's not true, because everybody has struggles, everybody goes through that. And it's very hard because you're like, oh shit, are people going to judge me if I reveal who I really am or what I've gone through? But that's the thing that people resonate with. And if anybody takes just one thing away from this episode, it's like just being authentic. It matters so much out there. And I do think in the long run, it's going to really benefit you, like with all the relationships you form with people.
Yeah, 100%. So I think if you produce content and you have this feeling of, oh, I'm not sure if I really want to share that. I had this with this post. I wrote it and I was like, oh man, I just seemed like an idiot, right? I didn't take my own advice. I like had too much cash. I'm in crypto for such a long time and I know about like self-custody and I usually do it. But sometimes you just don't. And I trusted FTX too much. I just made the mistake. But yeah, just posting it, and I think it reached something like 650,000 people. So,
Wow.
and if
That's
you think
awesome.
about that, right, it's like more than 500,000 people read that post. And you're like, that's so crazy to think about, right? Like 500,000, like you can't even imagine like how, if you just had like a field, right? And it's all filled up with the people that read my post about me fucking up on FTX. It's just crazy. It's just crazy to think about. Yeah, but I think people resonate with, in the end, it's about like, can you learn something from it, and can you like express your mind, and yeah, just being vulnerable, but at the same time showing that you are able to grow, and you still like show some grit. I think that's the best way for content, to be honest. I mean, not only share all the things you fuck up, maybe also tell people like what you know about the world, but it's a great way to start, and it's a great way to connect with people.
Right. And I think it's very like you said about, oh, I didn't take my own advice. It's very easy in life. We give out advice to others. And when it's other people, whether it's relationships, money, financial, like, oh, when your friend asks you like, oh, this girl just broke up with me or something, you're like, oh, it doesn't matter. She wasn't good for you anyways, But then when your own girlfriend breaks up with you, you start crying. So it's very easy to tell other people what to do. But when it's about yourself, it's very tough. So what's your plan going forward right now? We're in a bear market. You're producing content. What's your content about? You say you're a podcaster as well. What are you working on?
So I have my podcast, and it recently shifted to mainly just being about founders in Web3. And I think I'll also open it a little bit more, like in general to like interesting tech companies, because I have to be honest, like I'm just a curious guy and I want to learn. And if I'm limiting myself too much, it's only Web3. It's like, there's so much stuff around it. Maybe it also has like it also is intertwined in the peripherals. So you never know. So yeah, it's about founders. It's about lesson of founders, mistakes they make. And I'm trying to motivate the listeners to take action themselves, to understand the space a little bit better. So that's the podcast side. And I'm trying to go hard on Twitter now. I'm trying to grow my Twitter. That's like one of my main goals. That's also, it's mainly based around trading, about solopreneurship, but also about like being a perpetual traveler, maybe being a digital nomad. So I'm trying to share about my life as well as the things I learn on the way. And yeah, that's what I'm mainly focusing on at the moment.
So I know you're active on LinkedIn. Are you thinking about transitioning from LinkedIn, or you want to kind of like, are you going to focus more on maybe on Twitter, and why one over the other?
I do think the content on Twitter is better in general. Like the quality of content is higher. And LinkedIn, I mean, I will also use LinkedIn, but I'll try to produce the best Twitter content possible. And then I have a system of repurposing my Twitter content for LinkedIn. And because I think the content in general that works well on Twitter usually also works really well on LinkedIn. So if you optimize to go viral on Twitter, you can just take the best post and put it onto your LinkedIn. That's the strategy that I'm following now. I'm thinking about to go more into video in general. And also I'm going to take my podcast onto YouTube, and also get someone to do YouTube shorts, because I think it's really hard to grow a podcast just by releasing episodes. So I've grown a lot of different things, from like TikTok accounts in the past to the LinkedIn now. And podcast listeners is like the hardest thing to grow.
It is. Because I can tell you that.
Yeah, you probably know that. So because the investment of the listener is so high, right? Like watching a 10-second.
You're not asking for 10 seconds. You're asking for a whole hour.
Yeah, exactly. So you really have to deliver value and or personality, because I think the big difference in video content or like longer form content is you can really show your personality. I can tweet something and maybe there's some personality in it, but someone has to read probably 1,000 tweets from me until they get me. But if they listen to me for 1 hour, maybe in a spontaneous conversation, it's different. It hits different,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's why I have my full podcast episode, which we're recording right now. It's going to go on YouTube. It goes on the different, like Apple, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. But then I'm also creating like YouTube shorts and posting that on LinkedIn. Although on LinkedIn, they don't really like videos. So I am trying to figure out where that other place is going to be to reach people. Hey, I'm hoping Elon does something with the Twitter videos. There has been some rumors.
Fingers crossed, man. I also hope so. I think there's a lot of possible upside on Twitter right now. I kind of believe that Elon will improve it.
Yeah.
And it's a great platform if they turn it around. For LinkedIn, I think one of the problems is that the organic reach got fucked a little bit. I think there's changed some algorithmic
Definitely
things
changed a lot in the past, whatever it was, but it just went all the way down.
Yeah. So and I think like the end goal for me is also to grow a newsletter, because those platforms, like, they can change in an instant, and maybe you grow to 10,000 followers, but then they cut your reach to 30%, and basically you just lost, 7,000 followers because you can't reach them anymore. So that's also something to keep in mind.
Yeah, because definitely important to have your own kind of like email list or something that because I'm seeing people on LinkedIn who have like 100,000 followers, and they're like, all of a sudden they're like, I'm reaching like not even 10% of this audience because of the algorithm change. So if you have that email list, it definitely could be useful down the road. So I think that's great advice, and something I am working on. I have my email list, but I haven't kept it too active. I'm like, I don't want to like be annoying to people. So when I do have something like a new episode, I will email them, but I definitely need to kind of become more proactive with that. So that's great. That's great advice.
I think it's all about just asking the question, like, how can you add value through the email? How can you add value in a short amount of time? I think that's the best case for email newsletters, to not like only be the guy, like the millionth guy repeating the news, but give some unique insight, something actionable, and like a little bit of your personality. And I think that's a great way to go. If you not only use email to sell, because that's annoying to people, just selling or just repeating stuff that you already said or someone else said better, because then you're like, why should anyone follow this newsletter if it's just like a worst version of something?
Yes, we are like the Milk Road, but worse. That's getting the most.
Yeah, you just described like many Web3 newsletters, because exactly that's what they are.
The other thing that resonated with me, what you said about not cornering yourself, and I want to ask for your advice, because I've been thinking about it, right? So my podcast is show builders of Web3, right? Which I'm very happy with, but I want to do this for the next 20 years, man. I'm very, very passionate, and I love the Web3 space and just meeting people. But I love learning about you. I want to learn about the people behind the project, right? And in 20 years, I'm like, this is going to exist. I think the blockchain is definitely going to exist, but I don't know if it's going to be called Web3, right? So, and all the other people who you see, like Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, right? You have Lex Friedman, Tim Ferriss, all of them just use their names. Joe Rogan, right? They don't have like, it's not like the productivity podcast and Tim Ferriss is the host. No, it's the Tim Ferriss show. So I've been thinking about switching it, which my personal brand was built on the AI show, but AI not standing for artificial intelligence, being Antonio Ivanovsky. But now I'm in that point. I'm like, if I talk about Web3, but I call it the AI show, and I'm like,
it's confusing.
It feels a little confusing. So I'm kind of like stuck in that point. But I don't know if the name matters as much as the content. So what advice do you have for that? Because I'm stuck in that like dilemma right now.
So first of all, I wouldn't call it the AI show, because I think that's very misleading. And also now AI is such a new hot topic. And maybe you get some followers, but they won't stay. The churn is going to be pretty high.
Right.
If you do it like that. I mean, you can just use your first name, maybe.
Yeah.
So what's your first name again? Anton? Sorry,
Antonio Ivanovsky is my
Antonio.
full name. Yeah.
Antonio. So you just call it the Antonio Dejan show. I don't know.
Antonio Dejan.
So, but I do like the idea of building it around just your person or your personality, because that also gives you more freedom in the future. Because those terms they tend to lose relevancy, like you said.
Right.
So maybe no one's going to talk about Web3 in the future. So if you have, I'm also thinking about that. My podcast used to be called, because it was in German before, and it was called Wallets im Wunderland. And in English now it's Wallets in Wonderland. And I'm also thinking, that's the good thing about it. It could also be about something different. It's not crypto related, but the name wallet, it's pretty much related to crypto.
Maybe it could be also like money or finance or something.
Yeah. So that's also something I'm interested in. So I guess I'm staying with that. But yeah, I think the more you can push your own name out into the world, the better, to be honest. Like,
yeah, and I'm a huge fan of this guy, Naval. I'm not getting paid for this. And he talks about like, put your name out there, right? He's just Naval, right? There's nothing else behind it. But now, that's taking over my AI has taken over my name.
Sue them, sue OpenAI.
I'm gonna get shitted on LinkedIn because they're like, oh, look at this trend follower. I'm like, no, I've been AI since my mother gave birth to me. I'm not
Maybe that's like a sign you should go into AI. No, who knows?
Yeah, so that was I was an AI product manager working at Verizon, and I'm a data guy, right, by trade. So always like that's how I actually got one of my AI product manager jobs. They asked me like during the interview, and it's not even a joke. They're like, well, what do you think you're a good fit for this position? I'm like, well, have you seen my name? I mean, I was born to do this job. And everybody started laughing. They're like, okay, that's fair enough.
There's some really interesting studies that I think it was about Tinder, and the chance you swipe right on someone who has the same first letter of your name is like,
oh wow,
is significantly higher. So I think there really is something to names, and you shouldn't underestimate. If you're like, yes, your name, I'm the AI guy, you can see that my name, people are like, oh, it makes sense, So it's
right, you're the AI guy. Yeah, I mean, there's also, I think it was in Freakonomics, they were saying that people who are named Dennis, they have like a lot higher chance to become dentists. So it's actually true. I've looked at the numbers. Yeah.
That's funny as fuck. Yeah.
What were you saying? I'm sorry.
That was, I just said it's funny.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know that one about Dennis and Dennis, but it makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Dennis,
numbers don't lie. So we'll see. But I think the other thing is that I want to give to listeners or anybody who is, don't let the name stop you. And that's why I chose Builders of Web3, because I'm in this place right now. I mean, podcasts can change, but I've gone in the past, and I'm just speaking from experience. I'm like, I want to start a business. I want to start a podcast, but I have to figure out the name first. And then it's like 3, 4, 5 months later, and you haven't done anything because you're stuck on choosing the name. And I think it's just get started is so important. Because
also
I think
another. I'm no, sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
So I just I have a document, and it's called like a name bank. And if I see an interesting name, I just put it on there. And once you do that, once you collect names, it gets way easier also, because you train your brain, and maybe you see an interesting name and you can think about a flip of this one. So actually I started to like naming things. And I do believe that's like there's an art to it. But on the other hand, just also now you can use AI. Now it's even probably easier. If you just like, oh, I have a podcast, that's the topic, you just ask ChatGPT, give me 10 ideas, and then you can all still combine from those ideas. So nowadays there shouldn't be any excuse to not get started because of a name.
Yeah. It's very hard, man. I mean, when my wife and I were having a baby, we didn't do the gender reveal, so we said we're gonna wait. And we had a boy's name, but we had no idea for a girl's name. And it was literally like, we're about to head to the hospital, and my wife is like, hey, can you give me a girl's name in case it's a girl? And we're like, no, it can't be a girl because we only have a boy's name. And it turned out to be a boy, and so we're
Okay.
very happy with that. But we're like, in the future, if something happens and we have a girl, we still don't have a name.
Yeah.
So it's not just about business; it's also about personal.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So um, we talked about a lot about the content creation. I want to ask you about something very interesting that I just saw this morning from you. And I think a lot of people are dealing with that. You were talking about some things that you've gone through and if you've learned. And the thing that stuck out for me, that you said that you about friendships and kind of
Yeah.
going away from that and maybe being a little bit lonely. I don't want to like put words in your mouth because I saw the post before, but how is that coming along? Is the COVID easing? And I know you're on the road a lot. How are you trying to keep more active with friends? Are you doing that over the internet? How do you combine that with real life and stuff?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. But it's also another example of something I wasn't too sure about if I should put it into the post. And now I posted it like 1 hour ago, and I already got like 4 or 5 messages. So it's interesting again, right? It's another example of you share something that's kind of personal, and it's not the best thing to say. Oh, I felt lonely, but it's something people like really connect with. But coming back to your question, so I think the hard part really, if you travel a lot, is like taking the time to reconnect with people once you're in a city. So because usually a lot of your time is like just traveling, arranging things, working. So like one thing I really took to heart for myself was like just be like proactive about things, and not only to like schedule a like 2-hour lunch date, but maybe think about maybe you can just, or if you're out on the road, just ask people to like, maybe we meet in this other city and we can just have a weekend. And just be very proactive about it. Search for an apartment, like look for things you can do together. Because I think like the older you get, and I mean I'm not super old or anything, but the older you get in general, it's more important to think about like what experiences do I want to share. Because if you're like 20 or 18, like probably everything, you just meet every day and you just do whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to plan more exciting things, or not exciting, but more activities in general.
Yeah, cool.
Things you will remember in the future, basically.
Do you think that the people you meet on like LinkedIn, Twitter, and online could be that kind of turn into real life relationships? And that's something that I've been thinking about lately, like in an online community, kind of fulfill that community part, because I think that's what you're looking for in a way, and all of us are looking for is some kind of a community.
I think it can, and also like some of the people I met through LinkedIn, is in the process of some of them are becoming friends.
Yeah.
But again, you have to be active about it. It's way harder if you just talk over the internet. So if there's like a conference, or maybe just ask some people of LinkedIn, like, hey, let's just meet up for a weekend. We can, like shoot the shit a little bit. Maybe we brainstorm some startup ideas, but we also like do something. We just get a cool house somewhere. I think that's kind of the future also of like online relationships, to find those moments where you just meet in person and you just really try to get known to the other person. That's my goal, at least.
Yeah, man, that's awesome, man. I mean, it gets harder as, like you said, you get older, people have different responsibilities. I mean, when you have a child, if you ever want to have a child, it gets even harder, because I'm like, okay, like every time I do something for myself is I'm taking away from time being with my son, so and trying to balance that, it's definitely, but it's very important. You have to take care of yourself in order to be able to care and take care of others. So if you're ever in New York, in New Jersey, hit me up and we'll grab a drink. We'll grab some good food. I know a great German place, 100%. Even though you're probably tired of German food.
No German food, man.
No German food.
What do you like? What German food do you like? Do you have any favorites?
I mean, my favorite part, I when I go to the beer garden, is definitely the beer and the big.
So your favorite food is the beer, okay?
The beer, yeah. But I like. I mean, goulash. I don't think it's technically like German food, and like I don't know if it's called like Austrian goulash, but goulash. Because we have it back home from where I am in Macedonia. And
I think it's something. It's more like an Eastern European thing that came into Austria, because in Austria you have a lot of Hungarian people, so there's the Hungarian goulash.
Okay,
but there's also like a German version. I think it's more like an Eastern European thing that came into Germany. Yeah.
Well, I don't know who invented it, but thank you, and I love it. Like every time I go back home, I call one of my uncles, and because he's a cook, and he as soon as he hears that I am in town, he's like, "I got you. Like, don't even tell me what you want. Like, you know what I'm making you," and it's always goulash.
Yeah, that's great. I love goulash. Honestly, goulash is like on my top 3 of the favorite foods. Like, I love it as well. It's great.
So, what are the other 2?
Oh man, the other 2. It's so hard. I really love pizza as well. Like a good Italian pizza, Italian food in general. And then what else? I also really like schnitzel. Like it's also very German.
Schnitzel is good.
Like,
oh man, I'm getting hungry now.
Yeah, I'm already hungry. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah. I saw you had the squiggles as your LinkedIn profile. Yeah. Are you a fan of Snowpro?
Yeah, I love Snowpro. I think art blocks in general is like really pushing the boundaries of everything like art related, and it doesn't seem like a cash grab. So there's a lot of thought behind the projects. I mean, sadly they priced out a lot of people now, but I mean that happens with things that are limited in supply and the demand is high. So
yeah,
but I think they're doing a great job. They also have this like convention now in I think Martha it's called. I think it's in Texas, right?
Oh,
I think it's a very small. There's a very small town in Texas, and they have this yearly convention now, and it's curated by art blocks. And I think it's like an art village, and now they added the like NFT layer on top, and they have little galleries and small parties, and it's supposed to be really nice and small and like a vibe of a new frontier, really. So it's supposed to be really cool. So maybe check that out next year.
Yeah, I gotta check out. I got exposed to the art through Gary V. I went to VCon, and the art was created by Snowpro for the VCon ticket.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so it's like squiggles with the VCon. And it was cool, you know, because getting one of the top artists to design just like a ticket, you know, like if you go to a soccer or basketball game, you don't have like artists designing all of that stuff, you know. So I really like the frontier, and we'll see where it goes. But it's definitely fun. So where can people find you? Listeners, you know, they get interested, they resonate with content. Why don't you tell people where they can find you?
Yeah. So you can find me under my full name, Ole Lehmann, or just Ole, OLE.ETH. That's my ENS domain I bought. So you can find me under this name on LinkedIn. My name on Twitter is called Ole.eth, just all spelled out, OLEDOTETH. It's my Twitter handle. I'm very active on Twitter at the moment. I'm trying to be even more active as I was before. So Twitter and LinkedIn, you can just shoot me a DM if you like to. If you want to check out my podcast, it's on Spotify, and very soon it's going to be on YouTube as well. It's called Wallets in Wonderland. And yeah, I'm happy about every follow, every comment. Just if you have a question, just feel free to ask me.
Yeah, good, man. I will definitely be checking it out because I do love your content. So I'll definitely be a fan. But I really appreciate you stopping by today. I want to be very respectful of your time. And I'm really thankful for you taking the time to meet with me today. And then hopefully we get to meet in person and eat some goulash one day.
Yeah, eat some burgers in New York.
Eat some burgers. And pizza's pretty good too here too.
Yeah, so. They have great pizza in New York. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, man, it was
Thanks,
really
man.
nice to be on. And yeah, let's just stay connected and
For
take
sure.
it from there next year.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you so much again.